Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, let's dive in. We'll let people kind of trickle in here. Guys, today's topic is how to estimate for renovations and how to avoid pitfalls. And welcome, Connie. Thank you for your support. Keystone has been a fantastic partner. I've got to tell you, Keystone saved the deal for me last month that was nothing short of a miracle. So we appreciate what you guys do. And Connor is not on, but we also thank Washington Capital Partners for your partnership. Todd and I are not licensed contractors. That's a good thing because I probably would have one less limb if I were. But we certainly have had exposure to enough contractors to be able to speak intelligently on this subject. And I would encourage all of you guys to jump in with your comments and questions as well. So I wanted to start by asking a question. Why is the skill of being able to estimate for renovations, why is that a critical skill for anybody to have who's in the rehabbing and flipping field?
Can I answer?
Don't all jump in at once. Yes, please.
I was trying to let somebody else take the ball, but I think if you're able to walk through a property and estimate your renovation cost, either purchasing it for yourself or representing the buyer, whomever, your underwriting, your ability to make a decision can be done in 75% faster than your competitor. Thus, you can buy the property if you're that into it before any other offer comes in.
Anybody else? I like that answer.
I think the idea of risk comes to my mind, the idea of assessing risk.
It's a great answer.
You know, Todd, I would even take it a step further. I think that you can underwrite these deals before you even walk through the property, right?
Yeah, so, I totally agree. I often I don't really need to see a property before I buy it. If I get confirmation the structure is in good shape, based off of the numbers here, I know exactly what I'm going to get myself into.
Well, I'm not talking about necessarily buying it, but I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one on here that gets bombarded every day from wholesalers and other agents and deal of the decade and deal of the century. And, you can't pass this one up. And, I'll give you an example. I had an opportunity come across my desk 2 days ago. It was a 1,800 square foot house in East Mount Airy, listed at 199,000. I'm thinking, ooh, this is going to be good. And I've got buyers in that location. And by teaching you some of the skills that we're going to discuss today, I quickly assessed that the rehab budget for a property like this would be about 150,000. And the highest sale within a 4-block vicinity was 300,000. Right? So doing the math, this deal literally can't work unless the acquisition cost is $75,000. Now, Ben, I'm going to ask you as an agent, what's the likelihood that a seller asking 200 is going to even look at an offer for 75,000? Is that feasible?
Probably about 0%.
Zero. Okay. How many agents do you think would just jump in their car, right, and go show this house? If somebody said, wow, I found this great house and I think I may want to buy it, right? There's going to be probably 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 agents who are going to go walk through the house and look at it. And then afterward, do this work and realize, oh shit, I just, wasted my entire day, when in reality, you can do all this work in advance. So I think this is the key. The other thing that I wrote down is everybody who works in this sphere knows that the good deals sell almost immediately. So being able to really assess these situations very, very quickly allows you and your clients to be able to take action quickly and sort of, separate the noise from the music, as they say. Todd, what is your guideline? I mean, do you have a cost per square foot guideline that you use when you are looking at these things? No,
I find that very hard, but because I do full gut renovations on every rental that I purchase, I know certain costs are fixed, right? And I can run through them pretty quickly. HVAC, electric, and plumbing is like roughly 10 grand per.
Well, we're good. Let's go through. I want to go through each one individually. Yeah.
Good.
But just generally, I mean, I found, so for my clients, I found $80 to $100 a foot is a good like starting point. So for example, on this, and this is not for a full demo, this would be for a full rehab, but for a property where the structure's in good shape, keeping some of the existing walls. You may remove some walls, open some things up, obviously update kitchen, baths, blah, 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 blah. But, $80 to $100 a foot. So for example, in a 1,500 square foot house, 130 to 150 is probably a decent budget to work off of to start. If you can't make the numbers work at that, estimation, or if it's not close, then you probably are not going to be able to, put a deal together. Period. Anybody have anything to add to that? Questions? All right. So, yeah. Yes. All right. I think it's just background noise. So for a 1,200 square foot house, the average 2-story Philly row home, Todd, let's walk through the costs for each stage of both demolition and then construction.
Sure. So for me, and I'm going to just reference some old quotes here. Demo is pretty fixed. The clean out will depend how many personal items from the cellar are still in there. But I go anywhere from like 3,500 to $5,000 for that.
5,000 is what I have written down.
Perfect. Then the next step would be any interior and exterior masonry or concrete work. This is a big variable for me because if there's no exterior work that has to be done or minimal exterior work, I can really keep my construction at a very fixed number.
Let's talk about interior, because the exterior, that's one of the things that I wrote down as one of the pitfalls, is the exterior, right?
Okay.
I mean, I think it's something that gets overlooked.
Always.
I know for my own house, I unexpectedly spent over $50,000 for the exterior. Yep. How did that happen? All right, so framing.
So that's Matt, before we started the call, I was telling you my last 4 jobs that I've done, the last
hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Continue.
Thank you.
Sure.
The last 4 jobs that I've done over the last 18 months, the framing's gone down significantly. Not so much the labor, that's pretty fixed, but the material, right? We were having a hard time finding lumber and the cost of lumber was up. So when I frame a house, basic 3 beds, 1.5 baths, 2 beds, 1.5 baths, pack out the kitchen a little bit, nothing crazy here. We're not adding additions. My framing's anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000. It depends on what we do with the kitchen.
Okay, I wrote down 10,000 for a full interior frame. These are numbers that came from a contractor that I work with who tends to be on the lower end of the spectrum.
I want to say too, when I do some of my renovations, I do not change the footprint of the top floor. So I don't like move a bedroom or put a bathroom somewhere else. So like I don't have to do all that reframing. 10 would be conservative, I think, if you are redoing all that, plus additional insulation and everything else.
Okay. Electric would be next.
All 3 major trades, right? HVAC, plumbing, electric. For me, I average 10 grand per. That includes the tie-in to get the specialist back at the end of the job.
Todd, can I jump in? Can you guys say that one more time, please?
Which piece?
You were saying the 3, you said HVAC. Did we talk
Plumbing.
about electrical? Plumbing,
Yeah, HVAC,
electric.
plumbing, and electric. I always guess out $10,000 per. And that includes getting the sub back to do the tie-in at the very end. Also includes all the material. Little helpful hint that I learned from a mutual friend of ours, Ben. If you hire an HVAC and plumbing to be done by the same person, you can kind of keep that cost down pretty significantly, about 25%.
So my contractor was 16 for electric, 10 for plumbing, that's for 2.5 baths, and 16 for HVAC. That's kind of high. For my house, for 2 zones and all the ductwork, 2,400 square feet was $15,000, which I think is a freaking bargain now that I'm thinking about it. But
that's a pretty good deal. Yeah.
And guys, note the order that things are going here. So demolition, framing, electric, plumbing, HVAC, insulation, windows, flooring, kitchen, baths, exterior,
Done.
basement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Insulation, Todd.
So the way that I do my demo and framing, I don't fully re-insulate the house. So my installation's only like $2,000. It's not that much.
Oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
in other words, your tenants are paying out the nose in their utility bills.
I
What
am
a-
mindful of that. No, seriously, I am mindful of that. And we do spot insulate upstairs. The front and the back wall are fully insulated top and bottom, and that does help to keep their costs minimal.
My
Question.
contract just said $4,000. This is obviously for bat and roll. If you're doing spray foam, it's a lot more expensive.
Yeah. No, I use like the R whatever 15 with the Pink Panther on it.
Windows next. Todd, you mentioned that the price of windows have changed.
Yeah, they have to, yeah, and the time in which to get them. I mean, what I use is like the rental grade white windows. You can find them like off the rack at Home Depot, but if you want to get like the nice black ones or anything that's like double, even triple pane these days, it's taken a long time to get them. My windows for capping as well, which is more exterior, but the way that my contracts write, that's all included in there. It's roughly 500 a window.
Okay. Samantha said 350. I don't know. This is probably the white, Gen, whatever it's called. Flooring.
So I use a floating laminate flooring. It's very, very, very low grade. But with the flooring, the bullnose, the pad, either new steps or carpet on the steps, that is about $6,500. Yeah, that's actually a little low.
Yeah, I have $4 to $5 a square foot.
$45 a square. No, what? No,
Four
four
to-
two five. Oh,
425.
I was gonna say you're getting like
that
Japanese
would be-
bamboo delivered. Yeah.
No, 45. Yeah, no.
Todd, what could that fluctuate if you decided to do like an engineered hardwood or something, something
So
on a
the-
nice grade?
Yeah, the labor, it's funny, the labor doesn't change, right? It's the same amount of work. I would advise especially if you're doing this to live in, but if you're gonna rent, to do something a little nicer than I have, because I'm having like buckling at the seams now, with just some like little water with pets or kids, God forbid. I think if you can keep flooring between $5 and $6 a square, you're in good shape. Mine comes out to be about $3, but it's not worth the cost savings in my opinion.
And then you can spend a lot. I mean, I know like we've tongue and groove 3-inch red oak floors, and it's on all the stairs and the
Yeah.
banisters, and it costs a lot of money if you're going to be doing something for yourself. I think the $4 to $5 to $6 a square foot is what you would see in most flips.
Absolutely.
Bathrooms, Todd, is there a blanket number that you use, or does it depend?
It's hard, right? Because if we're talking about like a tub and a diverter and then 2 sinks, 2 toilets, 2 mirrors, 2 fixtures, that to me is all wrapped into my finishes cost. So I mean, I didn't before this call, but I'm happy to break it down for you. The tile is also included in that. I guess you could say for a half bath, it's probably about $2,500. For a full bath, probably closer to $4,000.
Samantha has 10, but this is for a flip. So I guess it's a little bit of a different.
Yeah, everything I'm talking about is rental grade and holding in mind. Mine's built for durability. Yeah.
Got it. All right, kitchen. Todd, you just keep the original kitchen, right?
No. That's actually where we spend the most money on finishes because it really matters. Appliances are like $3,500. It includes a washer dryer. Cabinets, they're like $2,500. Counters are 15. The hardware maybe another $500. So $7,000 plus
7,
tile. Yeah, plus tile. Figure maybe 10.
like 15 to 20.
See, but it's like
Okay.
when I buy tile for the kitchen, right? I use it in the bathrooms too. So it's all kind of lumped together. It's hard to itemize it.
Got it. Do we have any questions so far, by the way, guys?
I have 2 questions, and they're really different. When you buy a property and you flip it, like as an investor, do you have like if you're dating, you have a type. I have a type. When you are in flipping, do you
What's
have?
your type, Charlene? No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I don't know. Do you know someone? I'm still not married. But which is a crime because I see everybody has a boy. Okay. Anyway, so when you're flipping, do you have a renter in mind? Like like I see rental properties. Like when I walk, I see like and especially in South Philly, you see a lot of cement guys or whatever. But like for you, Todd, when you are doing a property and say you use the same tile for the bathroom and the kitchen, and like maybe Matt or a different person has a different, like I rented my dentist, Dr. Mesticelli's office, and it was immaculate, right? Do you have a renter in mind? Like your renters kind of have the same, and I'm not saying, does that make sense? Like, do you know who your renter is? I'm not talking about diversity and getting all into that. I just mean, do you kind of know who your renter is? How long that person's staying? Is it a
Absolutely.
transfer?
Yeah, what 100% in the areas where I own and where I rent, I
Aside
know.
from paying on time and that sort of thing.
Yeah, oh yeah, which is always a gamble, right, for any landlord. But no, I know exactly the demographic of my tenant as far as like their range of income, how long they're going to stay, whether or not they have kids, right? Like, because my applicants tend to be the same. So yeah, absolutely. And I do rent to just by happenstance a lot of families, and I have young kids as well. So I'm aware of like crown on the wall, right? Like there's just food all over the floor. It just happens. So we try to build for that, and you spend a little less on finishes, but a little more on proper installation, excuse me, and it works.
Yeah, right. Not the installation time.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
Shirley,
definitely
this
not.
is a very interesting point because I saw an expired listing this morning. The title holder was from Amityville, New York, right? I was like, oh my gosh, flash from the past with the Amityville horror. But it was so funny because I remember looking through the photos and it was a nicely done house. But I remember thinking immediately, this person obviously is not from Philadelphia because the selection choices they make are not consistent with what the market here demands and what the market supports. So this seller is going to have a tough time. So I really think, and it really varies from neighborhood to neighborhood, right? I mean, a good South Philly flip is not going to look the same as a good Mount Airy flip, which won't look as the same as a Brewery Town flip, which won't look as the same as a Fishtown flip. So when you're getting into this business, this is not for the novice. And if you are just starting out, I would say make sure, number one, that you're working with a real estate professional that knows what they're doing. And number two, pay $500 and work with a designer, right? I mean, I know like my home stager for $300 will help choose selections and really cool selections for properties. Is that Samantha Simon that I see? Hey, how are you? Samantha's the one that provided me with these numbers that we're talking about from Simon's Home Renovations, the one and only. But yeah, Charlene, so that's what I would recommend. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. And then Todd, to finish a basement.
So I never finish basements. I just clean them up, parge the walls, paint the floor, put a lot of lights down there. But in the city specifically, if you need to underpin in a basement, it is a $30,000 to $40,000 job. If you do not, you can finish a basement for like less than 10. And does everybody know what underpinning is before I move on? Should I explain
Why
it?
don't you describe what that is?
Yeah, underpinning is when you do not have enough, like I'm 6 feet tall. So if I can't stand in a basement, you have to dig the slab, which is fine. But when you underpin, you have to see how far you can go down prior to hitting the water line. It's really never an exact science, and they'll dig like 3 or 4 test pits throughout the basement. And then when you figure out where that is, you have to remove all the dirt, pour a new slab, re-support the joist. You have to get your neighbor's permissions. God bless Philadelphia for that.
Oh, forget that.
Yeah, but I mean, like I'm going to be listing a couple condos in Fairmount for sale, and the first floor and basement is the first unit, and they underpin. There's 9.5 feet down there, which is like unheard of in the city. So you really just never know. Like you have to check. You have to check it. I don't do it because basements leak and I don't want it in my rentals, but it is people who have them love them.
Yeah, I mean, let me just say this, guys. Basement construction methods in 1900 were not intended for those spaces to be finished. They were never intended to be airtight. They're not constructed that way. The only basement construction method that I know that is waterproof is called superior basement walls, which were developed in 1981. So the likelihood that unless you have a waterproofing system, some sort of French drain and sump pump in the basement, you know, to finish, and Samantha, tell me your thoughts on this, but to finish those spaces out can be risky, right? Because these spaces were meant to be cellars. Samantha, I'd be curious as a contractor to know your thoughts.
Yes, and it's very expensive to finish a basement, and not to mention that the city requires plans. You can do the upstairs, the second and first floor renovation just with an easy permit, assuming that it's just, you know, that you're just addressing the basic. But the minute you are talking about the basement, they will require plans. And that tends to be expensive because you have to get an architect to do the plans for you. That is $2,500 we're talking about. Probably is depending on the architect. He may charge less if it's just a basement. And the permit time, the processing is just horrible, just horrific. Even if you pay the acceleration fee, which is $2,000, and they say around 5 days, but that is not true. We're talking about 2 months.
What if you just finish it and don't get the permit? I mean, I already know the answer to the question, but for those that don't.
Well, then your inspector is going to come out and say, was this a finished space before? Which they do an initial inspection before with the EC permit. They do an initial inspection. They will go and see the space. If the space was a livable space, having enough ceiling height, which is 7.2, 7 feet, 2 inches, then you're good. You could just, you know, do a soft reno because it was already livable. If it was not, which is the majority of the cases in these properties, they will require you to have a permit for that. And if you don't go and do the permit, then that could get you into big trouble.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I love the people who try to underpin on the weekends. They're my favorite.
And they always get catch.
I'm going to go on the
time.
record, guys, and say I just feel like finished basements are completely overrated unless you just do not have enough living space on the main floors of your house. It's just an unnecessary thing, and I don't know who wants to spend time underground. It's certainly not me. Let's talk about some of the pitfalls, guys, because this is where, you know, your profit can literally evaporate and turn into a negative. I wrote down 4 things. Todd, you mentioned the first thing, the exterior, right? The sidewalks, patio, the condition of the bricks, pointing, stone, stucco, any significant sloping you notice in the floors. Oh no, that's the second one. Any trees that need to be removed. You know, these are things, guys, that can really.
Hey, Matt, sorry, but you mentioned an important point. Trees on your property are important, but trees on the other properties or in the city alleyway just as important. Like, I had a tree that was in the alleyway growing like over my roof, and we were like, the gutters were getting clogged. I paid someone to cut it down because it just wasn't worth the ongoing yearly maintenance that I had to do to clean out the gutters. So yeah, trees are a big one. I love them; they're beautiful, but not with the damage they can cause the back of the house. The front of the house, you can get away with it sometimes.
Yeah.
Not to mention the root. The roots of those trees, even it could be the neighbor's trees or 3 houses down your property, and those roots could get in, destroy your sewer line, destroy the sidewalk of your property, and you know you are responsible for the sidewalk.
That's right.
Yeah, I just walked through a property yesterday. There's a tree out front, and I mean, the front steps are all splitting and pulling away. And, you know, the seller's going to have a big problem on their hands. Okay, the second thing I wrote down, this is kind of an obvious one. Anything structural in nature can be very, very expensive to repair. Samantha, how do you, I mean, to the novice, how would you notice that, you know, without having an engineer?
how I would notice a structural damage. The most
Yeah.
common one are when there's a slope on the floor, and then
Mhm.
you will see the crack on the walls. It's like, oh boy, that's
Yeah.
sign for trouble.
Okay, so cracking walls, any noticeable step cracks in the foundation walls, all
Yeah.
dangerous signs, and can be very costly to repair.
If you look at a house from the front of it and it's brick, and if you look at the corners underneath the windows and see zigzag cracks and the mortar going down, that is obvious signs of water just pouring in there. And it might not be a problem today, but it will absolutely cause you a problem. Also, do we all know what star bolts are, right, in the city? They're not bad, right? If you see a property that has a pretty stars and then there's a huge bolt that goes, I think, halfway through to the back of the house and all the joists to like push the house back. That's good, right? I mean, someone else paid for it, but if you have the budget for that, those can be costly.
Mhm.
How much I paid, I think $1,500 a piece, but they were put in before, like during the framing. So it's just, I don't know. Samantha, did you know how much are star bolts?
I don't have an idea. Usually we
Okay.
don't do that. We don't
Okay.
take on those kind of projects because it tend to be, it's always more than what it looks like.
Yes.
And then the last thing which Samantha mentioned, I think is, something that can be a big cost item is the main sewer line, the main sewer stack. Take a look at that, guys. If you're doing a rehab, if there's a lot of rusting and corrosion, if that needs to be replaced all the way out to the street, you're talking, $10,000 or more.
16,000.
16,000. Thank you, Samantha.
Yeah. So what we will do, or at least what I do for all of my flips, I will just, I won't go down to the original one. I will run just new sewer line on top of it, getting down at least 36 inches, and then tie down at the front of the house, connect to the original sewage right there at the front of the house, going down to 36, because that is the only way of being certain that that I won't have to deal with that problem. Sometimes the problem is on the street. Well, that there's a very good insurance that the city offer. I believe it costs around $100 per month or something. And
You talking about
they,
AWR?
yes,
I think it's $10 a month, $100 for the year, roughly.
for the year, yes.
Yeah.
That through
Wow.
PGW?
No, it's called American
through-
Water Resource. It's water sewer line insurance. If you just text me, Ben, I'll send it to you.
Thanks.
All right, so Paul Channer has a question. What is the best way to pitch renovations to potential investors?
Go ahead, Matt.
I mean, I wouldn't do it. I mean, if somebody's not in that space, I guess the answer to the question is, if you have somebody like Samantha Simon on here that does home renovations and somebody wants to invest a certain amount of money and you have experience and can lay out the numbers for them, then it can be profitable to flip a house. If somebody's never done it before and you've never done it before, I would say find a really skilled real estate professional and get some guidance. Otherwise, you could end up in a situation that is ouchy.
I do have experience. Thank you for answering my question.
Oh, hi, Paul.
Hi, sorry, I'm at work, so I didn't realize that my microphone was on mute earlier. I apologize for that.
That's all right.
No, that's okay. Did that answer your question?
I was hoping to kind of break into the market over here. I'm from Canada, and I have an opportunity to work in the United States. So I was hoping to potentially get into the real estate investing. I know that this market right now isn't the best, but I know a few friends that have started with renovations and are now in full real estate development. And it started with building a resume and trying to attract investors. So I know it's very risky.
It's a tough one, Paul. I mean, I get calls literally all the time from people, and it's always a little bit of a yellow flag when somebody says, "Oh, I live in Vermont and I want to invest in the Philadelphia market." I don't know what Todd, your philosophy is. I feel like it's always a good idea to start investing in your hometown where you understand values, you understand the market, you understand construction costs, you have relationships with contractors, because, you know, to do this sort of thing long distance, I've run into so many situations where somebody flipped a house and one contractor started it and then the contractor bailed and somebody else finished it and the house looks like a mess, and then it just becomes a project that's not profitable.
Yeah, I don't personally, I don't love the idea of long distance real estate investing. Unless you're going to do it like passively with your money and you have a friend or somebody you trust
Like a
out
private
there.
lender. Yeah.
Yeah. But Paul, I will say to your question, like there are many people who do what you do, and there's some really good books and resources out there. I think my personal opinion, like my first investment was 0.6 of a mile from my front door, and I felt good about that because I could visit it if I needed to. But if you're like gung ho and this is where you want to be, I mean, I think that's fantastic. I would just be very mindful of, do you have a team here you can trust, a contractor, a property manager, somebody who knows, like in this case, Philadelphia and all the crap that we had to deal with at the city, like that kind of stuff.
Max, Samantha Simon is a contractor. I can send you her information. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, guys. I mean, Samantha, I don't know about you. I mean, I'm sure you do this. Most every investor that I do does this. When you're flipping a property, I mean, normally you're on site several times a week, checking how things are going, checking on progress, making sure that there isn't a need to course correct. So if you are trying to do that from a distance, I feel like, Samantha, do you agree? I mean, do you have people that contract for you that are from across the US or in a different country?
Yeah, well, actually, not all of my clients, they are from out of state, but
New Jersey doesn't count, Samantha. I mean, that might as well be here.
California,
Okay, all right.
and New York.
All right, interesting. So how does that work?
Well, because I mean, this is just me. I don't know about the rest of the contractors. I take on the entire project, and I handle it as though it's my own. So at times, I mean, they have said, okay, I'm very lucky because you handle everything, and they don't have to be worrying about, if things are going the way. When I'm working with a new client, at times, yeah, well, they want to be checking up every day and every minute, how is progress. But as they get to know me and they get to know what I do and they see the results, well, then they just lay back and relax, and we do like once a week checkup. But I know it's very risky, and it's very, very difficult.
So what happens? Somebody calls you and just says, I've got $300,000 that I want to invest, and you find them a house and give them a scope of work. How does that all work out?
Basically, and usually it's just referral, a friend of a friend of a friend. People that plays golf, they hang out with other people that play golf. People that likes to drink hang out with people that drink. So that's the way it happens. So it's usually referrals.
I just put Samantha's email address in the show notes, guys, for anybody that wants that. What questions or comments do we have regarding this subject? Charlene, what's somebody flipping a house? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to involve the title here. What are some of the hiccups, pitfalls you've seen regarding title for flipped properties? Because I know I run into this sometimes. If, for example, the renovation happens quickly and the new deed isn't recorded yet from the new owner, that sort of thing. What have you seen, and what are the solutions?
I think that when people are flipping, they want to get it done quickly, and especially with title now. And I think Connie, are you still here?
Connie,
there's such a glare, but every time I talk to Elaine, there's new procedures in place and new things people have to sign, because when it's when people are flipping, they want to get it done quickly because they want to either, get it rented or whatever they want to do with the property. And sometimes it's not recorded. And many times, probably, I'm certain not you or Todd, but people don't understand that just because they're paying and they see a settlement sheet and it's theirs, that it's really not theirs because it's
Okay.
not recorded, and it's not, and even if it is recorded, it's not necessarily true. And even on our team meeting, Elaine said, well, they're going to have to sign an additional piece of paper. And in my title mind, you can sign anything you want. It doesn't necessarily mean it's yours. So a lot of the fraud and the wire fraud, criminals are really smart people, and they're getting smarter with technology.
Oh,
So
man. We're taking a dark turn here in grid
it is
filling.
a dark turn, you know, like I nerd out over like a lot of LinkedIn articles, and I read a lot about like Gen Z and stuff, and I'm someone who embraces all of that change, and I make jokes and stuff, but like a lot of the things I don't know, I have to embrace, and a lot of it is technology.
So what is the solution then? You just find a title company that you really trust and, you know, have them look out
Yeah,
for
I
you?
think you have to really trust who you're working with. And you know, the market is tough right now. So when I'm out and I'm meeting with different people that I've never met, like I don't expect them to give me business. You have to be a resource, and you have to trust and work with the people. And you guys work with Keystone agents, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about them knowing their job. Title insurance is regulated. Will they go the extra mile? Will they go down and talk to someone in the city of Philadelphia instead of make the call, talk to the miserable person on the other line? You have to
Yeah.
like sometimes go the extra mile. That's so cliche. I hate cliches, but I'm hot right now. So see, like, God, it's hot. But sometimes you really have to go. It's not just called a chain of title. There is a process, and title is research still. That's what it is.
And Shirley, just while we're on this subject, because I think it's applicable, what about if you buy a property at a tax sale or a foreclosure? What are some of the flashing red danger signs for that in terms of title?
Tax sales are, they can be, I think you have to be knowledgeable. Like, was it Paul who asked the question from Canada? I think you have to do some homework on those sort of things. And I mean, I remember when I first got into title, I didn't know the difference between a judgment sale and a sheriff sale and a tax sale. And I think that before you do that, you have to know the difference and what taxes you have to pay and where you have to go.
But what about the title? Because that's why I'm asking you guys, you know, the title for kind of, let me ask you, for a tax sale or a sheriff sale, I don't know, maybe they're different. There's no guarantee of clear title, right?
Well, you know, for sheriff sales, you do get clear title. And they collect what's due for water and gas. But most times when you get it from the sheriff sits on all of this money because it's not being flipped yet and sold. So when they get notice that it's going to be sold, that's when they start paying off these liens. That's why we're always telling sellers, because they're like, we have clear title. And I'm like, no, you need to go down to the sheriff. You need to pay off these liens from all the money that they're holding on to.
What about at a tax sale?
With the tax sale, it's the same thing. It's not, it really completely insurable.
It is, or it's not.
You're still going to have outside issues that you're going to deal with. And a lot of investors that are unsure of how the process works completely just thinks everything's taken care of. And they have to do their homework, and they have to be knowledgeable on what to do. And we kind of walk them through it and tell them what they need to do to clear, don't add automatic their title once they purchase it through tax.
Right. So this is good information, guys, because, you know, the reality is if you pick up a property for $20 at a tax sale and start popping the champagne thinking you got a great deal, and then there's a
Right.
$200,000 mortgage on title. Like, you could end up with a major problem on your hands.
It really becomes about who's knowledgeable too, and what's lienable and what's not, because then everybody comes out of the woodworks and says like, this person owes me money. But I worked for someone who was really knowledgeable and started telling creditors like, that's not lienable and we're not paying it. So someone has to be an advocate for the buyer and the seller as well. And I know things are very corporate now, but I worked for someone who was like, we're not paying that, because people get nervous now and they say, we're going to pay everything that everybody wants. And that's not true either. So you have to have someone who's knowledgeable and is not saying, okay, we're going to pay every bill everybody sends us.
And when you
So it
say
really
someone,
comes
you're
down to
talking
someone
about a
being-
title person.
Yeah.
Got it.
I always walk the sellers through on what they need to do to the
Any other questions, guys? This has been a really informative conversation.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
How to get around the double appraisal? Let's say for a quick flip, you just got it, and after 6 weeks, the renovation is completed and you're ready to put it on the market. Then immediately after, you go on the contract, but then the lender is requiring 2 and 3 appraisals. How to get around that? Is there any
It
way?
totally depends on the lender, Samantha. Totally depends. Depends
Wait,
on
wait,
the
wait,
type of mortgage. But if it's an FHA mortgage, there's certain flip rules. If it's conventional, it depends. Totally depends.
Matt, are we talking about seasoning period?
There used to be an FHA flip rule. It used to be 6 months. I think they lowered it to 90 days that you would have to, well, first, you've not heard of this, where you have to
Are
get
you saying that
multiple appraisals?
somebody can't purchase a flip within X number of days if they're getting an FHA mortgage?
If I purchase a property in November, I
Yep.
flip it and I list it in January and it goes under contract, somebody finances with an FHA loan, FHA is going to require multiple appraisals. That's what you're talking about, right,
Yeah.
Samantha?
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
The way to get around that is to try to get a conventional buyer.
Sure.
Or, if you're dealing with a credit union, it depends. The lender is really going to be the one to call the shots on that.
Well,
If
I'm
it's
surprised
FHA,
that they just don't do an appraisal and then get like a BPO or some other $150 nonsense to support the value.
I've had lenders where they want to see like an itemized, list with prices of the improvements that were done.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it run the gamut. Normally, the multiple appraisal situation will be if the lender doesn't feel the after renovation value, the pre-renovation value, and the improvements that were done all stack up to one another. Then they're going to want multiple appraisals. So there's no clear
Interesting.
answer, Samantha.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Thank you to Keystone. Thank you, ladies. We love you. Our next meeting is on May 18th, starring Todd Miller. It's called Scaling Your Rental Portfolio. We'll see you all then. Samantha, I'll talk to you soon, and thank you. I'll send everybody your information. Samantha
you.
Simon from Simon's Home Renovations.
Oh, hey, Matt, quick question.
Thanks, everyone.
Oh, Mac, I'm sorry. You have a question?
Yeah, so can you introduce all the people who are professional that's on this call and the Philly area? Because I got kicked off for a second, so I'm not sure. I think I sent you a message asking, did you work with out of town investors? And I'm not sure if you responded or not, because I got kicked off.
Is his number for rental? Is that the question, Mac?
Yes.
Todd's number were for rental renovations. Yes.
And Mac,
No,
Mac, my name is Todd. I've been a licensee in Philadelphia since 2015. I used to do a ton of sales. I focus now on building my rental portfolio that my wife and I own and manage.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. To Matt. As far as on the agent side, do you represent out of town investors? That's all I was asking.
Repeat the question again, Mac. I'm sorry.
Do you deal with out of town investors as far as on
Yeah.
the agent side?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you put your contact information here? Because I think I asked, but I got kicked out for a second.
Yeah, sure. Doing
Matt,
it
Todd,
right now.
I have one question. I know that the renovation loan and financing was not a topic of today, but as we're running through all these numbers and like the cost of each, layer of renovation, can you guys just touch on, somebody used the term after repair value, ARV, and maybe how that gets rolled into like a renovation loan?
Are you talking about a 203K loan?
Yeah, when I
God.
first got into the business, I was like, shit, I can't invest. I don't have, right? We're talking about 10 grand for HVAC, 10 grand for electrical, and not understanding that these could be rolled into a renovation loan. If you
Oh,
guys
I
briefly
so
run
wish
through that.
I wish Connor was on the call because hard money is.
He's missing out on business right now.
Yeah, he really is. Hard
merit
money.
to-
Yeah, but we can talk about it offline. But I'll just say, hard money has been my best friend. I would not have scaled the portfolio as quickly as I did without it. If you're not familiar, you only need 25%. It's negotiable between lenders, but you need 25% of the purchase price and like some closing costs to get in. So if you buy a $100,000 shell and you're going to put $130 into it, you come to the table with like 30 grand. You do not need the entire purchase price and renovation cost.
But then you have to refinance, right, Todd, if you're going to hold it?
Yeah. So if you're planning on holding it, I think it's good. If you're going to flip it, I mean, the interest could pile up. But Ben, if you're thinking of doing this and you want to talk offline, like please reach out. And if I'm not the right resource, I'll connect you with somebody or Matt, whatever.
Talk to Connor. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Connor's is either 15 or 20% of the total project cost, meaning the acquisition cost plus the renovation cost. So it's not a ton of money down. And Samantha knows, I mean, these things get approved. You can get approved in a week and get those cash in hand to make a purchase. It happens quickly.
Or depending on the relationship with your lender. My lenders, I mean, right away. And sometimes I don't even have to put anything. He will cover the 100% because we have this
Mitch,
relationship.
Mitch is the man. Samantha can just make a call and make it rain, but
Yeah, in 2 days.
Yes.
Mitch, I have a closing in 2 days. Oh, yes,
I love
you
it.
got it.
Well, Samantha, thank you guys for joining. Samantha, thank you. I'll talk to you guys soon. Happy April. We'll see you next month.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.